It's not. So don't do that.
By the way, it reminds me that Will Wright, I guess, wakes up to Advanced Wars to supposedly spin his brain up. And it kind of playing it kind of reminds me of the same thing.
Well, like I was saying, don't do it while you're falling asleep. I definitely couldn't do it in the morning, though, either, because it's hard. I have nothing in the morning. Attack of the Paper Zombies. This actually is not a generated game, but it's going to be. So the screenshot down on the bottom right, this is called Infested Planet, and this is the new version of it that he's working on. So watch for that. But it really well could be a generated game because it's so it's such a systemic design. So it's all. I should start back a little bit. You're those three Marines, those three little blue dudes, and it's an RTS. It's a very basic RTS. There's no resource collection. You kill monsters to earn more dollars and ammo, which you can use to buy minefields and bigger cannons and toxic clouds. Upgrade guys to flamethrowers and snipers. So it's a comp stomp RTS, and it's all about you trying to destroy every enemy base on the map. But the better you do, the more powerful the bases get, so you have to be careful about what order you pick them off in. It's really hard. So like Desktop Dungeons, it's so hard that it's really, really satisfying. You feel really, really clever when you figure it out. And it's free. All those are free. Shoot First, Desktop Dungeons, Attack of the Paper Zombies, they're all free. Most of them are easy to find on Google.
We'll put up the URLs at the end of this talk, so you can find these.
We'll also post the slides, and you'll be able to get the videos and the links from there.
And that's about. Oh, I had PAX Galaxia. I didn't prepare too much to say about it. This is a pretty old game. How many people have played PAX Galaxia? Yeah, it really never got a lot of recognition, but it's really fantastic. It's like I've been playing some StarCraft 2 lately, and I found that I get all shaky and crazy and completely stressed when I play that. And this game does it too. It's that same good, shaky, crazy, stressed out feeling. But it's way simpler to get into. It has tons of depth, but not the complexity to bring the depth. The depth comes from much simpler rules.
It looks like Candyland too.
And it's pretty.
It's kind of like real-time Risk.
Yeah, you can call it real-time Risk. Very, very stripped down RTS, which is kind of what Attack of the Paper Zombies is too. So there's a little bit of theme. See, I had 2 action roguelikes. Well, that one's turn-based, and then I had 2 stripped-down simple RTSs.
All right.
I'm gonna stand.
All right. Last but certainly not least, standing, we have Andy.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy. Schatz. I'm making Monaco, which, anyone played out there yet? It's on the show floor?
Yeah.
If you haven't, come by and play it. And I should also mention that I'm sharing a booth with Chris Hecker, who's showing Spy Party, which is definitely a game you might not have heard of that you should go try out. It's like giant fucking crowds at the booth, and it's awesome because I'm getting all his runoff. Anyways, I'm going to take a little bit of an angle on this whole thing and talk about the games that I chose, which are not all necessarily good, but are interesting and definitely worth checking out. The way I want to start this is I usually see designers as game designers as one of 2 types. You tend to have designers that are really focused on mechanics. And the nuts and bolts of how a game works, and you really think about fun as a commodity when you're designing a game by mechanics, and you're thinking about how can I pace the fun, how can I, the fun is like it's like little gold coins, right? When you're designing those little gold coins, that's a mechanic. And then there's designers that really tend to talk about games in terms of the experience of playing them. And so the atmosphere, like Robin, the games that Robin was showing, are really not so much about the mechanics, but about the atmosphere and the actual experience of playing the game. And that can include narrative or art or sound and music and things along those lines. So I wanted to talk about games that are sort of on one side and then on the other side, and then try and encourage people to help us, all the designers, since you're here at PAX and you're talking to game designers all the time, help to marry those 2 concepts. So one of these games that is a mechanic game that is really not a very good game, but it's really worth checking out if you're interested in games and game design. It's a game called Playpen. It's made by a game designer named Farbs. You might have actually heard of his other stuff, which is a little more Captain Forever, those games. Anyone played those? Yeah. So, yeah.
All right.
So the Captain Forever and stuff like that. That's like people describe it as what Spore should have been. Those games are actually games where you're a spaceship and you're flying through space, and you're actually building your spaceship by collecting parts that you get off of other spaceships that have been destroyed, and there's actually strategy in how you build your spaceships and you fly around the world. This is just another little experiment, but those games are fantastic, and those are the ones that he's actually, I think, making money on, so you should go get those ones. But this one was a little experiment he did called Playpen, and it's all about user-generated content, and it's broken, but it's really interesting. And here's the reason why. Every screen is drawn by the people playing the game. It's a wiki, basically. You can take any screen, in fact, even that very first screen, that Start Options Multiplayer Adventure screen, was drawn by someone playing the game, and then redrawn by someone else, and then redrawn by someone else. There isn't actually multiplayer in the game. But so you can draw it, and then you can also put hotspots into it with text. So I believe I clicked on the hotspot up by Start, which took me to that shit screen. If you can't see what it is. And there's hotspots on there, like a little, I think if you move over the red cat, it says Devil Cat, and it's all this stuff. And then that yellow thing, my mouse is hovering over, it says Gaze at the Sun. So I clicked on that. That went to the red planet up there. And then I was hovering over Go to the Red Planet. So all those different things have different hotspots. And then it comes down here, and there's Shag the Alien. Right? So it's super interesting because the most user-generated content feels so disjointed from the main game, right? So you go out and you get a game that supposedly advertises user-generated content. It's really fun. Blah, blah, blah. You play through that main game, and then you go out and you get like 99% shitty content from some Joe down the street that made his own level, right? And you're trying to get, you have to still filter through, and maybe you get a couple of good ones, but it's not part of the game. And it's like, okay, yeah, it extends my experience, but it's whatever. So the reason that this is so interesting is that the mechanic of the game actually is there to help you create content, and the entire world is there to build, is there to make content. And so the problem with this game, the reason it's broken, is that there's no way to actually filter in and out good content. There's no way to encourage good content, and so you always end up with Shag the Alien, which is funny, but when every leaf of the tree, because it basically, you can imagine it's like a branching tree, right? And you eventually end out somewhere where there's no hotspots left, or so no one's made the next screen yet, right? And it's that last screen where it's always crappy. So it's like the last experience you have with the game is always bad. So I would really like it if someone would make a game like this. In fact, I would love to make a game myself like this, in which there's some way to both organize the content so the stuff that you're seeing a lot is really good, but also that stuff out there on the leaves of the tree are also really good, so you have this drive and this impulse to go explore the world and go see what's out there. So I actually did an experiment a couple of years ago that was the same thing. It's called the Abrupt Goodbye. You can see it at hello.goodbye.com. It's basically the same thing, except it's a conversation tree generated game, and it filters up the most popular responses. So you can say whatever you want to, it's a conversation between a man and a woman, and you can say whatever you want to the other person, and then they'll say something back in response to that. And eventually when you get out to a leaf of the tree, you can type in your own response, and then the database saves that. And it was really interesting. I launched this thing, and there was like 10,000 entries in the conversation tree after a week or something like that. So it's really, you can go through and see what conversations other people have made, but then also contribute to the conversation too. But it has the same problem that the leaves of the tree are always crappy. So anyways, I'd really like it if someone would design a game that solved that problem. This is another game that's really all mechanics, but it's sort of classic. It's a classic puzzle game in a sense. It's called Manufactoria. Sorry about my fast talking. Yeah, good. It's the type of game that will either make you feel really smart or really dumb. Yeah, I guess I think it made me feel smart when I played it. Not really that smart. But it's a game in which you're trying to it's essentially like a factory game, a building game, in which you're trying to get sort of Lemmings-esque or something like that, in which you're trying to get this stream of robots to go through and match a particular color pattern by building essentially this giant conveyor belt robot in order to get the robots to be the right colors at the end, to come out with the right color. And it's just, it's probably the best sort of brain teaser game I've played in a year. That's for free. That's a Flash game. You can go check that out. Yeah, pay free. Free diamonds. At pleasingfungus.com.